Yeah. Change screen. Okay. Can you all see my screen?
Yes, you can see your screen. Please go ahead.
Okay, thank you very much. So the example or the illustration I just gave is a clear example of AI ethical bias. So when AI is giving a preferential outcome for a particular set of person or particular set of people over the other set of persons, then would the issue of ethical considerations will come in. So, what is AI bias? Okay, we defined it here. It means unfair outcomes from flawed or incomplete data. Just like the example I gave, the live example that I gave from which the mentor from the last session shared with us, where he wanted to make a call and the AI was not recognizing his voice because of he does not have the accent of that particular country that he was making the call from. So that's an example. Another example is recruitment. There is also the issue of gender bias in hiring tools. Well, for example, Amazon in 2018, their hiring tool did not. It was biased against women because what was used to train the AI system, the ATS application tracking system, was mostly men's resume. So whenever a woman's resume is used or is evaluated by the AI system automatically flags it off because it is not it does not really recognize, or it is not familiar with a woman's resume. So when a data when the data that is used to train the AI is mostly from a particular set or from a particular category or from a particular gender. In this case, in the Amazon case, it was mostly men's resume, decades and thousands of men's resume that was used to train the AI resume tracking system, which made it to be biased. Discover it and they had to correct that flaw. So that's an example. In recruitment, the use of AI in recruitment, there tends to be gender bias. Also in policing, facial recognition and misidentification, just like the earlier example I gave about how and also our mentor also gave this example in the last session, how some AI cannot recognize certain faces. For example, if the AI is being trained with white faces, it will be very difficult for the AI to recognize black faces. And how does this thing happen? We define AI bias as unfair outcomes from flawed or incomplete data. So when AI is being trained, we all know that this AI that we're talking about is a trained system. Artificial intelligence is a machine that is usually fed with data, just like we define computer as a system that imputes that you impute data and give you an output. It gives you the data as an output, but in a refined manner. That's how AI works. So when you impute the data that you want the AI to be fed with, or you want to train the AI with, so that to be able to recognize a similar object in the near future, the kind of data you use to train the AI is very important. So if it's a facial recognition AI and you're training the AI with white faces, it tends to be more favorably disposed, or more biased in favor of white faces against black faces. So when such thing happens, it leads to serious ethical issues and discrimination. So it will lead to a situation where black people may not be able to effectively use that AI recognition system. There are even instances, we're going to also talk about it, in crime detection, where it happened in the US, where because of how the AI was trained, there was a AI crime detection system that is used to detect, I think, theft. So, it was facial recognition. A black man used the facial recognition, and the AI, um, the AI recognized him as a thief, and he was arrested and detained for about 30 hours before they discovered the flaw in the AI system. So this thing can lead to serious challenges, serious this AI bias, if not properly mitigated, it can lead to serious issues, and it can even lead to injustice where uh, reliance on the AI, when it produces an unfavorable and unfair outcome and it is being relied upon, there can be injustice and infringement of a person's human right, just like in this earlier example I gave. So another example is in finance. There's also a case where AI discriminated against Black and Hispanic persons in the US and charged them with higher interest rates than their white counterparts. So all these tend to lead to discrimination and tend to lead to injustice in the wider sense, where if not properly mitigated. You can also see other examples: healthcare, unequal medical recommendations. Under the case study under healthcare is Black patients who are less recommended for care. So under this healthcare, this mostly happened in the US. So in the US, there is a program that the government provides for them, which is called Medicaid or Medicare. So they deployed AI system to effectively administer the Medicaid. And this Medicaid is for persons who may not be able to afford healthcare services because of the high cost of healthcare. So the government subsidized the healthcare. And those agencies responsible for partnering with the government to provide the healthcare, they deployed AI systems that helps them to know the individuals that need healthcare the most. And what they used to train the AI with was that individuals that spend more on healthcare should be given more attention over individuals that spend less. And funny enough, because of the result was that most white persons were recognized as people that were recognized by the AI. They were recognized by the AI because they had the money to spend more over Black people. And that does not mean that Black people did not have more health issues, but it was just that the Black people did not have much more money to spend on healthcare. So the AI, because of that, it now tended to recognize white people as people or individuals needing healthcare the most over Black people, because the white people spent more on healthcare due to the fact that they had the money over the Black people. And this did not mean that Black people needed less healthcare, just that they did not have the money. But because the AI was trained to recognize individuals that spent more money on healthcare as those that need the most healthcare, that was why it recognized white people over Black people as those that needed healthcare services. So these are some of the instances of AI biases. And like I said, this has led to discrimination, it has led to unfair outcomes, and it has led to underrepresentation of a particular class or set of people. So how do we mitigate this ethical bias? The bold solution to mitigating this ethical or to resolving the issue of ethical bias is through transparency and accountability. So now there is researchers and AI ethical policy advocates have advocated for transparency and accountability in the use of AI. So under transparency, many users of AI or many AI users don't really know how these AI systems work. And this is what is known as the black box. So many AI systems work as black boxes with hidden decision making. They don't know how AI processes data, how the data is being imputed, and how the outcome is being produced. So the AI system is obscure, is opaque, and its users do not know how the system works. And this is what has led to the the um the the bias. It what is that it is one of the things that has led to the promotion of the bias in the deployment and use of AI. So if AI systems are more transparent, if developers can be more transparent in letting the users know how these AI systems work, it will discourage bias and it will promote fairness and also promote accountability in return. So explainable AI tools improve clarity. There should be explainable AI tools that should help guide users on how a particular AI functions. It will help improve uh, the clarity of the users. Though the users will know what the kind of machine or the kind of AI that they are being using, and will know how to relate with the AI, and also be able to know when the AI is being biased. Because one critical issue or another critical issue or challenge with regards this AI bias is that some users don't even know that the AI is giving a biased outcome. It's only professionals that are skilled in this AI development and deployment that will know when an AI gives a biased outcome. Some persons just see it as, oh, this is how it is. They see it as a norm when it's actually not the norm. So if there is transparency in the sense that there are tools that help give users the clarity, that help make users understand how this AI works and how their data is being processed and used by AI, it will help them to know when AI is making an unfair decision or is producing an unfair outcome. Human oversight and ethical auditing are also very essential. That's why even in research, it is advised that if you are using ChatGPT, that is good to also to always fact check what the site or the AI model gives you, the information the AI model gives you. Because there are sometimes AI gives inaccurate result, and if you do not fact check, you may inappropriately apply the result, which will lead to a devastating outcome in your research. So it's always good for there to be that human oversight. That's why AI cannot override the place of or the role of humans in overseeing it and in making informed decisions and in fact checking whatever the AI is producing or is giving as an outcome or as a result. Accountability also ensures clear responsibility for AI outcomes. So there is a recent case where a woman, a parent, their son committed suicide because of the advice ChatGPT gave the son, and the parents sued OpenAI. So the act of the parents suing OpenAI is a clear instance of accountability. So there's also a debate about who to be held responsible when AI gives a wrong result, whether you hold the developers responsible or you hold the users of the deployers of the AI system responsible, or you hold the company that manufactured the AI system responsible. In this earlier example I gave, in the case of ChatGPT giving advising the son of the parents to commit suicide, and the guy actually committed suicide and died. So the OpenAI was sued and they were held responsible for the act of ChatGPT, even though it was not them that expressly told ChatGPT to advise the person. But because of how it was them that developed the AI system, the parents of the boy had to sue OpenAI as the developers of ChatGPT. And if the court gives judgment in favor of the boy's parents, OpenAI will be held accountable and responsible for the outcome of ChatGPT. So it's very important for the human developers of these AI systems to be held accountable and responsible for the outcome of the AI. It will help improve and promote transparency, objectivity, and clarity in the use and deployment of these AI systems. So we'll talk about AI fairness solution and then we'll conclude. AI fairness solution means how can we mitigate these issues and challenges of ethical bias and concerns. This is what is described as AI fairness solution. So number one is by using diverse and representative data sets. So what this means is that the training data that is used to train these AI models, it should be diverse and representative. It should represent almost in fact, every category of persons. There was a statement made by our mentor in the last session where he said that if you want to deploy a system that is intended for global use and application, then it should have that global nature. Its use should be in a global nature. It should not favor a particular set of persons. For example, a facial recognition should not only recognize white faces, or it should not only recognize black faces. It should recognize, especially if the facial recognition is intended for global use, it should recognize every race: Chinese, Indian, black, white, Hispanic, red, all class and set of persons. That is what is meant by representative and diverse data set. The data set should be diverse and representative of every class of persons that are involved in the use, or that is involved in the use of that AI system. Second, there should be application of fairness metrics. So there should be metrics for measuring when an AI system, or whether an AI system is actually biased or not. There should be application of these fairness metrics, the quantification of probably statistics to show how from the results a particular AI is giving, whether it is biased or not. When there is this fairness metrics, we'll be able to know when an AI is tending to be biased, or tends to be unethical in its outcome or in its approach towards an issue. Another suggestion for this AI fairness solution, or for mitigating the bias involved in the use and deployment of AI, is design fairness awareness algorithms. So algorithms should be designed in such a way that it should be fair in its approach. Algorithm is defined as the brain of the AI. It is the set of instructions that determine how an AI system works. So if the set of instructions is not biased, and sometimes this set of instructions are influenced by the bias of the developers. So where the developers are not biased, or where the developers tend to be more broad in their approach and open-minded, and then develop algorithms that are broad in approach or in directing the AI, then the issues of bias or ethical misrepresentations will be reduced. So another solution suggestion is to maintain human oversight, like I said, in AI decision making, and support ethical regulations. For example, the EU AI Act. There is an AI Act that is currently applicable in the European Union, that regulates the use and deployment of AI. So developing this legislation, it must not even be a statute. It can come by way of policies, by way of regulations. Like in the US adopts more of regulations than statutes in order to adopt a more flexible approach. So it can be by way of regulation, by way of white paper, but let there be ethical regulations for the use and development and deployment of AI. In conclusion, AI bias is not just technical, it has real social impact. Transparency, accountability, and fairness are key. The goal is so that AI systems are inclusive, ethical, and beneficial for all. So the goal of this ethical consideration is so that AI systems can be inclusive and all-encompassing, include and represent everyone that is using the AI, so that everyone that is using the AI will not feel left out of the system, or will not feel underrepresented, and in order to achieve a more just, ethical, and beneficial outcome for all. So we are done with the ethical concerns. We are going to briefly do a rundown on the regulatory framework. So this is where our moderator can now share his slides, because some parts of my slides cut due to the device I'm using. I'm using a phone and it did not really show everything. So I'm going to briefly run down on the regulatory framework, because we talked about the importance of having regulations in place to address this AI abuses and biases. So, sir, please, Sir Williams, can you share your slides so that we can briefly run down the regulatory framework for the use of AI? Hello, can you hear me?
Yes, I'm trying to do that now.
Okay, thank you. So, while he does that, I'll just give the introduction to the regulatory framework. So, the regulatory framework is divided into 7 parts, okay, into 6 parts. 1, why regulate AI? 2, the global picture. 3, the European Union. 4, divergent parts in AI regulation 1 and divergent parts in AI regulation 2. Then 6, comparing the models, and 7, key takeaways. So this is found under table of contents. So we're going to move over to the next slide, which is why regulate AI. So the essence of regulating AI is to promote innovation, innovation versus safety. So there's usually a debate between promoting innovation and promoting safety. So there are times where, in a bid to promote innovation, the safety mechanism may be loosened, for there not to be strict or rigid regulation of the AI. Like a comparison, we're going to compare the EU and US system. In the EU, there's this strict regulation of AI that kind of stifled development and innovation. So there should be a balance between innovation and safety when considering regulating AI use and deployment. The reason there is this stricter rules and uh, rigid regulations towards the use and deployment of AI in the EU is so that is to protect consumers and to prevent the abuse of AI. But research has also shown that it has tended towards uh, discouraging innovation and towards stifling growth and competitiveness in the European Union where it is applicable, more than in the US that has looser regulations and rules. And though it has also protected, or it has safeguarded AI system, but it has led to more innovation. So we're going to see how a balance can be created between protecting innovation and safety. But the essence of regulation is for both innovation and safety. But there should be that balance between protecting the both so that one will not override the other. The second reason is rights versus competitiveness. So in order to protect individual human rights and also have competitive edge, and also encourage competition, which is the hallmark of capitalism, which in turn will lead to growth and development. Then the third one is transparency versus speed. So the essence of regulation is to promote transparency as well as promote the speed of the development and deployment of AI. There should be a balance between the both so that you will not stifle transparency in a bid to promote speed and vice versa. So we'll move to the next slide. Okay, the global picture. So no one size fits all. That's why I say there should be a balance between everything, between promoting innovation and safeguarding consumers who are using the AI. So there are some jurisdictions where, in a bid to protect human rights, there has been this slow improvement and deployment of AI technology. There has been this rigid and discouraging environment for AI development, fast and rapid development. Because one characteristic of AI is that it rapidly evolves and develops. So if we are not careful to try to strike a balance between the development and safety, we may want to focus more on one while overriding or while ignoring the other. So no one size fits all. It's very good to collaborate with other systems in order to achieve a just and more equitable outcome. So there are 1,000 plus AI initiatives worldwide. We have the OECD, EU, US, China, UK, and India. These are countries that are leading in the development and deployment of AI systems. I'm going to rush to Africa and Nigeria are still in their early stages. Please, the next slide. So this is the global picture. Okay, the European Union. So let's start with the European Union. The European Union now is, like I said, their focus is on rights first, to protect human rights and mitigate the risk involved in the use of AI. So I think the European Union is the only region and single market economy that has a statute. Here is the only region that has a statute that regulates the use and development of AI. So they have this AI Act 2004 that was enacted last year, that is a binding law on the use and development of AI. So the risk tiers, band, high and low. So there is this, it is risk based. The EU regulatory framework and system is focused on mitigating to the barest minimum the risk involved in the use of AI, and this has inversely led to the stifling of growth, innovation, and rapid development of AI, because in a bid to reduce the risk to the barest minimum, it has led to stricter and rigid framework. It has led to that rigid atmosphere that does not really encourage innovation. We are going to see it in the latter slide. So but this has also led to strong enforcement and legal sanctity. But the consequence of this is that it has kind of discouraged innovation and growth and competitiveness in the EU region. That's why you see most AI systems are developed more in the US and China than in the EU, because of the complex and rigid EU regulatory framework. So there's this strong enforcement and legal sanctity, but in turn, it has led to slow growth and innovation and competitiveness in the use and development of AI. Please, next slide.
Sorry, please, can you try to hurry up your
Okay,
presentation?
I am concluding now. Okay, I will just conclude with the US and China. So the US, I've already stated that the US is flexible and more fragmented. The US is sector specific. China is centralized and prescriptive. So the basic difference between US and China is that both China has strict state control. So the regulation of AI tends towards protecting national security and state control, and while US, it tends towards the various sectors and agencies regulating the use of AI in their various agencies. So there is less state control of the use of AI. There is this decentralized regulation. White House just coordinates the various agencies. The federal government, White House means the federal government. The federal government of the US just coordinates the various agencies. It's the various agencies that are responsible for developing rules and policies that are more flexible and adaptable to the development of AI in regulating the use and development of AI. But China tends to have this tight, centralized national control, and their policy is mostly tilted towards national security, strong national security focus, and fast top-down enforcement, while the US is innovation-driven and patchwork enforcement by the various agencies and regulators. So the last two slides, the second slide. So the second slide is on India and UK. Both share the same characteristics in common. They are both pro-innovation. India is emerging and data focused. India is almost like Africa that is emerging. UK is globalist in their approach. The UK approach is globalist and is principles led, and it tends to favor innovation, is less rigid and more flexible, less rigid than the EU system and more flexible like the US system. So there's the global engagement. Regulators apply flexible principles, and the regulation by the UK is the White Paper 2023 plus the AI Safety Summit, while the India AI regulation is the Data Privacy and Data Protection Act 2023. It's mostly tilted towards data protection of the privacy rights and digital data rights or digital rights of the individuals using AI systems. So that is the regulation in place that for regulating AI systems in India and the UK. So the next slide, and then I'll conclude. Comparing the model. So EU is certain. There's this legal certainty and high compliance compared to the US. US is more is innovative in approach, innovation and fragmented rules. This fragmented rules means that there's this decentralized control where it is the various agencies and sectors that are responsible for regulating the use of AI in their various sectors or in the various applicable agencies. China has this strict control and comply as national state control. UK is more flexible and principles led. India is emerging and is data driven. So India's AI regulation tends towards data protection and protecting the privacy rights of the users and consumers. So conclusion or key takeaway. So there should be the key takeaway from this comparison is that we should expect plurality. There's plurality of laws. So there's no single law, or there is no yet a single international treaty on AI use. Like we have single international treaty on human rights, the UNDHR, United Nations Declaration of Human Rights. So that is like the international treaty on human rights, but there's no international treaty yet. So what we have is various national laws and regulations. So that's what we call plurality of laws and regulation. The second takeaway is that developers should design for the strictest regime. So when developing your AI system, always have the strictest regime in mind so that you not be caught up with the relevant regulations. And third, build explainable and auditable AI. Let your AI be transparent and accountable so that your regulations will not, or the law will not catch up with you in deploying AI, and so that your AI will not lead to dangerous outcomes, just like the case of the US parents that sued OpenAI because the JIIPCC model 4 advised and encouraged the son of the parents to commit suicide, which the guy acted upon and ended his life. So that is one of the ethical concerns. So if more safety procedures were deployed in the development of that particular ChatGPT model, such thing wouldn't have occurred. The model wouldn't have advised the boy to take his life. The model even wrote a suicide note for the boy, taught the boy how to tie a note, the rope that is used to hang oneself. He taught the boy how to do it, and that's how the boy did it and ended his life. So if we have more ethical regulations and enforcement, stricter enforcement, and developers design AI systems that are amenable to this regulation and that complies with the relevant laws and enforcement, then we are going to achieve a system where we have a more beneficial and ethical outcome for everyone using AI, and we'll be able to have explainable and auditable AI systems. Thank you very much. This is my presentation on the ethical concerns and regulatory framework for the use of AI. Thank you very much.
All right. Thank you very much, Mr. Emmanuel, for a wonderful and very detailed presentation from you. Well done to you and to your group for putting it together. We really do appreciate the efforts. Please, can we have group two's presentation, and then we'll go back to our mentors for their discourse. I'm not sure, but I think we have Mr. Felix on the call. Mr. Felix Oloponyo, thank you so much, sir, for joining. Also, so please, can we have group two's presentation quickly?
Hello, everybody. Good
Yes.
afternoon. I
Good
don't know if
afternoon.
anyone can hear me.
We can hear you.
Can
Please
you
go
hear me?
ahead.
Okay,
Yes, we can.
I'll just share my screen now. Sorry, I'm not able to share my screen. I don't know. Okay. Can you see my screen?
Yes, your screen is up now.
Okay, thank you. My name is Aisha Tomalade Lawal. I'm going to be presenting on behalf of Group 2, and our topic is Emerging Technologies and AI Compliance. We are going to talk about how decentralized finance relates to AI ethics and how AI governance helps AI ethics. But as a way of introduction, I would like to start by talking about artificial intelligence. I believe we all don't necessarily need to be introduced to what artificial intelligence means. Again, we are all probably familiar with it at this point already. If we are not too familiar, we have probably used maybe ChatGPT, or even doing a random Google search would bring out an AI result. So all of us are probably already used to what artificial intelligence is already. So it's an innovation that basically you can use for a lot of things. You can use it to generate input and output. You can use it for reasoning. It's just generally training computers to think like humans. Then for emerging technologies are technologies that are in the process of complete development and adoption, which means they are not already properly developed, or they are in the process of being developed, that have the potential to change the world and the way we interact with the world, which is examples of emerging technologies are AI, Internet of Things, blockchain, artificial, virtual reality and augmented reality, quantum computing, and so on like that. Those are examples of emerging technologies. Then coming to decentralized finance. Decentralized finance basically is a system of financial application that is built on blockchain technology. Blockchain technology is also an emerging technology that changes the way people interact with finances these days. It's decentralized finance generally aims to improve traditional financial services like lending, borrowing, saving, trading, without generally using banks or the traditional method or brokers or other intermediaries, which means that generally people get to interact one-on-one, and it is decentralized. You don't have to go through so many rigorous processes before going through it. So there are a lot of technology that is involved in decentralized finance. Anyway, so in our slide here, we have written that decentralized finance is abbreviated as DeFi, and it is a blockchain-based financial ecosystem that allows users to manage funds without intermediaries. It's a new financial technology based on distributed ledgers, similar to those used in cryptocurrencies. So in other words, users gain access to trading, lending, borrowing, as I've said, with crypto without involving banks or payment systems. So how DeFi decentralized finance platforms ensure the ethical use of AI. Before we get to that, I'll first like to say, when we're talking about decentralized finance platforms, we're probably talking about Binance, Solana, and stuff like that, where people trade cryptocurrency and other type of digital currencies. So decentralized governance is a particular type of way how people ensure the use of ethical use of AI in decentralized finance platforms. Here, token holders vote on AI use, e.g., credit scoring, price prediction, retaining rules, and data limits. There are specialized working groups that review proposals for fairness and compliance. So they make sure that the users of those decentralized finance platforms ethically use those platforms and they don't misuse them. There's also transparency and open source. Smart contracts, which are basically the foundation for decentralized finance, they link AI decisions to the blockchain for verifiability. Platforms will require explainable AI to prevent black box outcomes in trading or lending or liquidation. So basically, black box platforms is a concept rather, which basically talks about how the operations of AI systems, which uses machine learning and deep learning, they are so deep and concentrated that most people do not know how they work. And this type of black box exposes a lot of people to danger because they really don't know how it works. So transparency and open source literally shows how this is how the computer system or the platform is running your finances and things like that. Then there's accountability. Developers take tokens as responsibility. Unethical AI actions can trigger penalties. This might seem a little, how do I put this, complicated, but it's basically simple. If you're using a decentralized finance platform, you will stake some tokens, probably cryptocurrency or any other type of digital currency. So when they keep that as a safe token, in event that the AI system misbehaves or there's ethical misuse of AI, then you have to forfeit that token that you have staked. So this is basically like to keep people accountable, and it is also good for dispute resolution and oversight. Then there's privacy protection. AI accesses user data without exposing raw information. We all know that data is what is basically used to train our AI systems, and without data, they probably will not be able to function as they do. So where there's privacy protection, data that is used to train AI systems would not be revealed or would not be misused or managed, and there would be a proper consent approval before somebody's data is used. Just like that. Then there's ethics and compliance. The platforms adopt global standards, e.g. EU Act and the regulations by the OECD, UNESCO, etc., to ensure that the development and deployment of those AI systems comply with ethical standards. I'll just move on to the next slide. The next slide is talking about AR and VR, which is augmented reality and virtual reality. And that we have said that AI is vital in AR and VR, but its impact on user perception, behavior, and decision making raises ethical concerns like and manipulation, bias, and autonomy. To address these, platforms adopt ethical safeguards such as transparency and explainability. So platforms disclose when AI-driven personalization, avatars, or virtual interactions are being used. Basically, transparency, and it would, like the black box concept I talked about earlier, it would reduce the black box concept, so people will be more familiar with how their personalization, their avatars, and other interactions are being used. Then there's user autonomy and concept. So for using your data, generally, there are so many rules that specify that, before using somebody's data, there should be consent, and it should not just be consent, but also consent that is not subjective. So to ensure ethical use of AI, there would be user autonomy and consent, whereby people will be able to opt in or opt out of some data collection or data uses of their personal data. So there's also bias mitigation. AI models powering avatars, NPCs, and simulations are always tested for fairness and inclusivity. So this would also mitigate unethical use of AI. Then there's also mental and emotional well-being. AR and VR avoids psychological exploitation, such as hyperrealistic simulations designed to manipulate emotions or profit. And then there's data privacy and security. AI respects privacy by design principles, ensuring sensitive biometric or behavioral data, that is eye tracking, gestures, emotional responses, etc., is not exploited for hidden persuasion or surveillance. So basically, privacy by design is just building privacy concepts or privacy regulations or tools into your AI system before deployment. So it is done in design states to ensure that everybody's data is secure and they are not being exploited. So however, I would like to say that all these things, I'm not sure how enforcement is going to be generally, because they might seem like good concepts on paper, but when it comes to their enforcement, we have seen little to no transparency on how these things are being enforced. Then our next topic, basically our next topic, just going from there, we have AI governance. So AI governance is basically a set of rules, standards, practices that help enterprises and society as a whole use artificial intelligence technology in a responsible way. It provides a structured approach for overseeing the full AI lifecycle, which includes I don't want to just go on and be reading. Basically, AI governance is talking about how a set of rules and principles are governing the way people are developing and deploying AI systems. We have seen several instances where people have seen open AI and probably meta AI too, for probably disclosing their personal data or their sensitive data, or making decisions or guiding people into making decisions that are wrong. I think the last speaker spoke about the the little child rather, that committed suicide based on results that the AI system had given him. So things like that, AI governance helps to cover it. So balancing innovation and public safety. We all know that AI is a very big innovation, one that rivals the first invention of computer generally. So with every innovation, there should be a way to balance the innovation and public safety, which is basically what AI governance is all about. The balance between AI innovations and public safety is the pursuit of progress with protection, advancing technology to benefit society while ensuring that ethical standards, regulations, and safeguards prevent harm and preserve trust. It is also about ensuring that the benefits of AI are realized without exposing the societies to unacceptable risks. There are a lot of risks that are associated with the use of AI, and we'll talk about that in, I think, a couple more slides. So, I would like to talk about the legal framework for AI governance. AI is a relatively new concept. However, some nations rather have established their own AI acts, while other people are still following white papers or national strategies. For Europe, the European Union has basically established the EU AI Act, which is the one responsible for regulating all development and deployment of AI systems in the European Union. It came into force on 1st August 2024, but the implementation is in parts, and everything will be there are like timelines for the implementation rather, and then everything will be fully effective from 2nd August 2026, except for the provisions listed in a particular article. I think that's Article 113 or so. Anyways, the EU AI Act follows other major EU legislation such as the GDPR, the Digital Services Act, and others. It is just basically to ensure that AI systems that are placed on the EU market are safe and they respect fundamental human rights. This is just for developers and deployers alike. Then the Act follows a risk-based approach to governance and ensure compliance based on the risks that certain AI systems might pose. There are prohibited AI systems, high-risk AI systems, limited or minimal risk AI system. This their permissibility, or let me say, the Act allows them to function based on as little risk as they would pose. For example, limited or minimal risk AI systems are allowed because they are allowed subject to certain transparency and disclosures. So, for example, now, let's say ChatGPT is probably like a limited or minimal risk AI system, but for incoming artificial intelligence systems that then generally deal with artificial general intelligence or artificial super intelligence might be higher. The risks they pose might be higher than that. So they'll probably be prohibited AI systems or high risk AI systems. Again, these things that AI generally is just like at a low level, and there are still like proposed or envisioned AI systems that are still coming. So for United States, the US has taken a lighter approach. They generally don't have like a main law, at least to my knowledge. They don't have a main law. They just have like regulations and white papers. Same as China. China is basically trying to like push the development of their legal framework for AI systems. And in Africa, I think our situation is even worse because what we do is just basically copy EUI Act or release white papers or strategies. We don't have, and it doesn't seem like we have like a general or a globalized legal framework for artificial intelligence yet. Also, we have seen responsible steps like bias testing in healthcare AI and transparency rules for generative AI. These are just to make sure that, the way we are developing and deploying AI systems is very good, and that there is no like unethical use of AI. However, those also have their own challenges. We have listed it, that their challenges include weak enforcement of these regulations. Like, for example, now the EU Act is there. However, how is it being enforced? How many people are actually aware that the AI system, the EU Act is being enforced? In what way is it being enforced? So generally, there is weak enforcement of all the regulations we have on artificial intelligence, because it is still a developing area anyway. So we said that the oversight of tech companies that sometimes prioritize um, speed to market, over safety. This basically means that there is a corporate AI race. Some apps, some developers rather, like Microsoft, OpenAI, they are ready to offer the best AI systems or the current market AI systems so that they can just make profit. I think the concept is called AI, corporate AI race, whereby companies are just like rushing to develop and deploy AI systems without regard to the regulations or safe and responsible use of AI. So that's one of the disadvantages or the weak enforcement of the regulations. I'd like to give an example where I think in February, I'm not sure, in 2023 anyways, Microsoft launched their AI search powered engine, and weeks later the chatbots or whatever threatened to harm users. This means that they didn't like do their due diligence before deploying the AI system, and they just wanted to do it to get ahead of others. So left unchecked, this waste could lead to excessive power being handed over to AI systems, which will cause unethical and irresponsible use of AI systems. We also said that public safety often lags behind innovation because regulations are slower than technology. Of course, when the new wave comes, everybody will rush to like to join the bandwagon and just to go with it without regards to public safety or ethical use of AI systems. So our next area is proposal for AI innovation. These are basically ways that we can use AI systems to the max, that these are the ways we can like use the innovation to the best of my knowledge anyways. Then there's efficiency and productivity, which means AI automates tasks. I feel like this slide should have even come earlier. We should have talked about this earlier. Efficiency and productivity, AI automates tasks, optimizes. We all know these things. These are the ways we can use AI to the best of our ability. We should always endeavor to use AI ethically anyway, regardless of anything we're using it to do. So the risks AI poses to public safety are a lot. There's bias and discrimination. AI is trained on data, and that data is being fed to the systems by humans. If a person that is feeding the AI system is biased, there's a likelihood that the AI system that is being developed or deployed will be biased. For example, now in Africa, we generally don't have a lot of developers or deployers of AI systems. Most of what we have comes from what I don't want to say white people, basically from what white people or Asians have developed and used for us. If there is any outer of bias or discrimination from that side, it will also affect the way we in Nigeria or in Africa generally use AI systems. I'll give an example. If they have fed an AI system, like let's say ChatGPT now, they have fed it like any bias or discriminating data. We now ask an AI system to generate the picture of a criminal or a person smoking, and the AI system now generates the picture of a black person, or yes, a black person smoking. I feel like it feeds into a stereotype, and it is part of the bias and discrimination we are talking about. Then we have security concerns. AI, artificial intelligence systems are, especially artificial general intelligence, they are very smart, and artificial super intelligence too, they are very smart and could think on our own, even after being fed little to no data. So AI-powered cyber attacks, deepfakes, and misinformation campaigns that can destabilize societies. On cyber attacks, I would like to talk about the military AI arms race. The development of AI systems for military applications is slowly paving the way. It's like the new wave in warfare now. And we're also developing leader autonomous weapons that can identify and target and kill human beings without human intervention. If such development or deployment of AI systems is not regulated by AI governance, then we can definitely destabilize societies and increase the likelihood of wars happening. Then for misinformation and campaigns, I think the first one I saw was a few months ago on Twitter, there was a lady that was accused of lying about having a boyfriend or something, and then somebody generated a picture of her with one random man. Meanwhile, it was an AI generated picture and it wasn't true. But like the way the lady faced so much bullying because of that fake AI generated picture, and the thing just went viral and it got to our school. People were bullying her, even calling for her death and stuff. It might seem minute, but these are just the things AI. These are just the ways in which misuse of AI and misinformation campaigns can destabilize our society if care is not taken. And then privacy issues. Surveillance technologies and data misuse raise questions about personal freedoms. Now we have drones. Drones that sometimes people even fly drones, you don't even know what the drone is recording or where the drone is from. If those AI systems, if the use of or the development and the deployment of those AI systems is not regulated, then surveillance technologies and data misuse can raise questions about our personal freedoms. Then autonomous systems and robotics are basically self-driving cars, drones, military robots, etc. They can easily be misused by the person in charge, or not even just the person in charge, they can be easily hacked. Maybe we're in Nigeria and we're facing war with Libya or another country, they can hack into our systems, our autonomous systems, and cause instability in the society. So if these things are not regulated, the consequences can be fatal. So our next well, I'm going to go to finding the balance. So finding the balance. No, before that, I like consequences of AI that were not included in our slides, but I feel like should have. We have the
Hello,
concentration of
can you
power. Sorry, what did you say?
hello,
I
can
should
you hear
round
me?
up.
Yes, please, can you start rounding up? Thank you.
Okay, no problem. So we have concentration of power. AI, if power is concentrated on too too many like companies now, like OpenAI is like the highest. If power is concentrated on them, it can cause anarchy or something like that. Then there's malicious use of AI, which I've talked about before, and lack of public awareness and digital literacy. I feel like this is the most important because these days most people don't know how AI. They just know okay, AI this, AI that, but how exactly is AI working? They don't know about machine learning. They don't know about deep learning. So it's important to encourage digital literacy amongst ourselves to understand how AI works. And now finding the balance. There's regulation with flexibility. Governments must create laws that safeguard people without stifling innovation. We have EU AI Act, we have several bills. I think in Nigeria we have the Online Arms Protection Bill or whatever now that can also regulate AI, ethical use of AI. Then we have ethical frameworks embedding fairness, transparency, and accountability into AI design and deployment. I think it's something about safety engineering. Safety engineering is basically when you're at the design stage of your AI system, you should include certain features like fail-safes, redundancy, and other principles that can safeguard the use of that AI system. So in the event that you later deploy it, you are making sure that there's fairness, transparency, and accountability into your AI design at stage. So basically, you are like putting like a preventive measure into your AI system before deploying it. So we also have public and private partnerships. There's collaboration between regulators, tech companies, academia, and civil society to ensure that AI serves humanity. It's like that's self-explanatory. Then we have risk-based approach. High-risk AI applications like healthcare or criminal justice should face stricter oversight compared to low-risk users like recommendation systems. So basically, this is just saying that we should regulate the way our AI system works based on their risk, like the EU Act has done. For example, ChatGPT recommends like stuff to people. It gives opinions like on different areas. There's nothing you can ask that will answer. That type of AI system should be regulated more than, for example, Midjourney or is it DALL-E or Gamma AI that their main purpose is just like convert, maybe generate pictures or PowerPoint presentations and things like that. So our solution, we have proposed 4 solutions for AI for misuse of AI. We have education and awareness. I've talked about that. Global cooperation. I feel like this is also happening whereby companies or nations come together to talk about regulation of AI systems. Then human in the loop systems, keeping human oversight in critical decision making area. Not just I feel like not just critical decision making areas, in all areas, human oversight is important and should never be removed from the development and deployment of AI systems. Because without human oversight, it may lead to ethical misuse of AI. Then we have adaptive governance. Regulation should evolve as technology advances. I wish we could say this to our lawmakers in the National Assembly, because for now we don't in Nigeria we don't have any regulation regulating the ethical use of AI. So as so many other countries, so we should that could be a solution. If there are regulations regulating the use of AI ethically, then there would not be any like bad consequences. Conclusion. The future of AI governance will depend on our ability to create responsible frameworks to enable the AI flourish. By prioritizing ethical principles, transparency, and adaptability, we can harness the transformative power of the benefits for the benefit of society. So basically, if we don't regulate AI and take AI governance important, we might run into a problem that might probably wipe out the human race, because there are more consequences than just simple misinformation. It could lead to wars generally. That's just it. That's the end of our presentation. Thank you.
All right, thank you very much, Aisha, for your presentation. Well done to you and your group for putting it together. We really do appreciate the efforts and the time both groups took to.
Thank you.
Both groups took to make presentation on behalf of today's class. So I think we have our mentors that are ready now to take us through what they have discussed, what they have for us in terms of discussions and feedback to presentation. So please, I would like to give the floor firstly to Ms. Buki. Sorry so much, Ma, about the delay. We sincerely do apologize. You're welcome, Ma.
Not at all. That's very, very okay. It's awesome to be here again today. It's been a while that I joined the session. Mentees, well done on your presentations thus far. I'll just say my comments now since I have to leave at 1:30. I think it just shows the amount of knowledge that's floating around with the level of the presentations that have been made. We have AI now helping us with research and helping us as a co-pilot in a lot of the things that we're doing. So it was really, really extensive. We don't have all the time in the world, but I think each of you did an awesome job trying to piece together all the information within a very short timeline. So well done to everyone. And you touched on so many aspects, the regulations, those that we currently have in the different jurisdictions. And you also touched on the technology as well, which is awesome. So for today, what I am going to be sharing is going to be slightly different. I'm going to look at the risks of AI. Let me know when you can see my screen.
It's up, Ma.
Okay, awesome. So when we're speaking about AI, ethics, bias, governance, and AI safety, what we did at my firm was to create a risk diagram. Because I hear that you have all checked out the regulations. You know that even the EU AI Act is risk-based. So that's trying to explain to you that in order to understand how to govern AI and how to create or draft regulations for AI, we need to understand what the risks of AI are. When we understand the risk, then we trace our step backwards from that. Here we have 3 columns or 3 pillars graded in the level of risk. So we have grade 1, grade 2, and grade 3. Obviously, grade 3 is the most risky. If you see in the on the bottom right-hand corner of the screen is the most risky, and then we have the least risky as grade 1. So when we're speaking of bias and discrimination, we're talking about data privacy and consent, of users online, job displacement, infringement of IP. Those are still on grade 1 level. The difficulty of mitigating them is least challenging. Not that it's not challenging, but it is the least challenging. Then we come to the middle where there is lack of regulation and compliance. We have error, liability and responsibility of AI systems. Who is going to take responsibility for AI systems gone rogue, for instance? The lack of explainability. That's a lot of people are actually building systems and they're not able to explain how the system works. So creating systems that lack that explainability factor. We have hallucinations, which a number of people are saying has decreased, at least since last year. I believe last year people were saying most of the systems had over about 88% hallucinations, and that the hallucinations within AI systems have dropped, and then emergent properties. Emergent properties is, for instance, those that create systems to do A, and then the system then begins to do X, Y, Z. And they don't know how the system created its thought processing to create X, Y, Z. So for instance, the systems that they said created a language and started discussing in computer code language, for instance. I believe that system was created to do one specific thing, and then language came about, within the system. Those are emergent properties. And then, of course, we have cybersecurity, bad actors, hacking, and people beginning to use AI for bad instead of for good. And then, of course, we have the grade 3, which is the deep fakes. And scientists say that deep fakes will become so real, it will be very difficult to tell the difference between an AI-generated image or video and a real one. Now we can, sort of, because the AI is not that good yet. Even some are still very good right now. But you can imagine, in 3, 4, 5 years, you can imagine how sophisticated the AI systems will be, that it will be very difficult. So we will have infiltration of news. Human beings will find it difficult differentiating between what is real and what is fake. We already have that now, so you can just imagine how it will go from here on. And then we have misalignment. Misalignment is systems that are not created with human values, human integrity, human foresight, and all of that, and the system becomes misaligned, and that is not what we want, because you can imagine a system that the systems already have no feelings, they don't have any emotion. So when you tell them go and execute an order, the system goes to execute that order. But you can then imagine when you have created a system that has no human values, does not understand. I mean, yes, we can call it understand or comprehend what human value data sets look like. That's very, very dangerous. And then, of course, we have the top 3, which will be existential risk, biological weapons, other physical kind of weapons, autonomous lethal weapons, and then, of course, super intelligent AI, which is the cumulative human AI that is more intelligent than the cumulative human intelligence on Earth. That means one system that is more intelligent than the entire Earth or human, existence together at once. That could be quite dangerous. You can imagine if that kind of system does not have any human values, or is a system that is, misaligned. So that's just some of the risks that we need to look at. These then help to inform us when we are trying to, okay, am I still connected? I hope so. Okay, yes, I am. Can you still see my screen?
Yes, now we can.
Okay, so let me open the next. So for this, I wanted us to quickly go to the singularity. So what is the singularity? The singularity is a point in mathematics and physics where a function is undefined. So researchers say when quantities like gravity become infinite, there is a center of the black hole that no one knows the end of it. Just imagine it as something happening that nobody on Earth knows how it will end. That is what the singularity is called in mathematics and physics as being the black hole. So many researchers tout that AI will get to the point of singularity, and that's what we don't want, to the point where, even at this point, if you ask the researchers, even the father of AI, I'm looking at him and watching him on news or YouTube video, and they are asking him, where is the end of this? And he's like, he doesn't have any idea. Then I'm like, if the father of AI does not know where AI is going, I mean, he has an idea where it's going, but he doesn't have an idea where it will end, then we have a serious problem on our hands. And so that's popular singularity that is called of a future technological point where AI surpasses human intelligence is quite unpredictable, and we don't know the radical changes, that will come there from. So we have this diagram, that depicts the singularity, human intellect, and where human intellect will peak and the machine intellect or intelligence will take over, which, just thinking about it, is quite scary. So this is what the black hole looks like. So gravity becomes infinite at the center of the black hole, which is what, the singularity is. So we need to understand this concept, because when we understand the concept, then it helps us, in how we need to approach ethics, how we need to approach drafting of regulations as at today. So if super intelligence emerges, how do we frame regulatory laws, frameworks, policies when we know that we are approaching super intelligence? That will help us draw back to be able to know that traditional regulation cannot work, and slow moving regulation also cannot work. So we need to move a little bit faster. And here it says that at that point of super intelligence, traditional law, traditional regulation will be rendered obsolete almost instantly. And so there are a number of layers here when we are speaking about AI. So the post-singularity mindset is what I want us to talk about today. And if every one of us can live here with that post-singularity mindset, I think I would have done my job. So it requires proactiveness, principle-based, and then, of course, a global collaborative approach. This is not something that people can do in isolation. So ways we can work on AI and regulation with singularity in mind. First of all, we move from reactive to proactive. I think every one of us here knows that mostly, especially in Nigeria, we're mostly reactive, even all over the world. But I think some of the jurisdictions are beginning to know that we have to all move from reactive to proactive. So you have to be proactive. I think we've covered the EU AI Act enough here to know that it's risk-based. There are different approaches, different levels of governance and regulation based on the level of the risk of the system that is being built. Then secondly, obviously, we need to foster collaborative approaches at the global level. Again, this is not about national borders. I'm still very worried when I see law moving. Law will begin to change. Law currently is very jurisdictional. Nigerian law, British law, Australian law, this kind of law. There will come a point where we will need to all begin to collaborate. I know they were talking about UK, Nigerian lawyers working together to get some regulation or principles or rules out for us to be able to work. Such conversations need to go ahead into the future where we are able to coordinate on a global level, especially when it comes to AI, because the technology, as we said before, is moving extremely fast. And then, of course, we need to focus on foundational principles. So those principles from old, the core ethical principles, we need to impute it in the development processes of for those that are building AI systems. And we've mentioned that again today: safety, transparency, accountability, and the promotion of human-centric values, so that those systems are created with human values in mind. Then obviously the human in the loop oversight, that humans should be at the center of decision making for systems. So critical decision making, even though we say there's going to be a lot of job loss, but at the center of it, there should be supervisory oversight of humans over AI systems, and this needs to be coded into law, because if you allow for some people, they might just allow just the AI systems to continue without that human in the loop. The EU AI Act has started with that. I believe that other regulations around the world need to follow that suit as well. And then lastly, but definitely not the least, is the investment in AI alignment research. That alignment problem is an issue. And if we have more researchers researching on the alignment issue, problem, the challenges, and possible solutions, that we can have in the future when it comes to artificial super intelligence goals and values are aligned. So I want to end with this. I attended a webinar, and the speakers of the webinar were talking about the ASI system that they were building. Super intelligent system, and they're putting millions and millions of US dollars into this system to create super intelligence. And in my mind, I'm like, these researchers are spending all their time, their effort, and their money to create artificial super intelligence. And then we have regulators and those of us who are lawyers just sitting down, absolutely doing nothing, when these people are trying to create AI systems. So that effort that is going into the creation of the ASI systems also needs to be going on this other side of creating policies, creating regulations, being proactive with certain decisions to kind of get these coded into law as quickly as possible. So if every one of us here is doing our own bit in our own way, whether it's you working in a law firm or bringing this to the forefront of wherever it is that you are, there is a lot of advocacy and education that needs to go out regarding AI ethics and regulation. And I just leave you with that, with this singularity in mind, hoping that all of us can go out there to try and work as much as we can to get these proactive regulations in place. So I think that will be all I'll be sharing for today. I want to congratulate all the mentees again for all the work that you are doing, the learning, that you are, progressing with on this series, and to thank JIIPCC as well for all the work, and the backend team for all the work that is going in. Thank you so much for having me here today.
All right, thank you so much, Ma. We really do appreciate your shared thoughts and your time in class. We are really, 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 really excited to have you with us in today's session. We really do appreciate. Please, for the mentees, we would like to see you use your thumbs up to appreciate Ms. Buki for such a very detailed. It was short, but very, very detailed. So thank you so much, Ma. We really do appreciate. So I think we still have Mr. Felix on the call, if I'm not mistaken. Thank you so much, Mr. Felix, for joining. We are happy to have you again in today's session. We want to just give you the grounds in the next few minutes to also just carry us through, while after your session, we'll be taking questions and answers. So please, we would like to hear from you based off of what you prepared for us in today's class. You're welcome, Mr. Felix.
Okay, so thank you so much and good afternoon, everyone. I was thinking that I'll be able to speak before this time, but again, it's been a very busy day, a lot of things cropping up officially. So currently I'm on the way. I'll just try, in case you can't hear me, I will try to pull over. And so I'm sorry again, I can't use my video. So I listened to the two presentations and the presentation of Mrs. Ogunshaki. More or less like it was it was like we're thinking the same way exactly. I don't know if she's still on the call. So thank you so much for asking for your comments and the brief presentation on how to deal with regulation of AI. So just by way of reactions, because I listened to the two presentations, let me just simply speak to a few things that I noticed before I begin to just discuss. I won't spend maybe more than 5-6 minutes because you've really dealt with some major issues that we need to discuss. So the first presentation, I could see how you try to do a lot of comparison with respect to regulatory framework across the globe. That was quite interesting, and it gives us a wider perspective of how different jurisdictions are trying to regulate AI system. But just a few comments. So I could see that I think you made a comment or a statement that only the EU region has a law now regulating artificial intelligence, and maybe again, what is it? The UK has. But I think in addition to that, currently or recently, just few months ago, uh, Japan passed a law, Artificial Intelligence Act or so. I think I wrote a brief article on that on my LinkedIn page. You may want to check out and analyzing the whole of the act. And essentially, the act brings about a different perspective or a perspective of regulation. I could see that you were trying to compare the US system with the EU system and what you have in the UK. Now, with respect to how strict and how principle-based the regulatory approaches are. Now, with respect to UK, yes, you're correct when you say they are strict and not just being strict. What they do is to do risk-based regulation. Now, risk-based regulation is looking at safety, it's looking at risk to data privacy, to all other issues emanating from AI. And the approach that Japan took was a principle-based approach. In fact, if I recall, the Japan Act actually does not provide for any penalty. What it does is to provide a regulatory approach which enables innovation. And this includes provision of some policies and all that to ensure that AI system actually thrive. But when you look at US is not so much like a principle based as you probably present it to be. What you have is you have different layers of regulations because federalism in the US is a serious issue as compared to other EU countries and maybe Japan. So there are some aspects of artificial intelligence that are not really subject to federal law that has to be controlled by the state laws. And as a result of that, it's more or less impossible for the Congress to pass a very all-inclusive legislation that will capture all aspects or all issues emanating from artificial intelligence system. And so in such a highly federal and diversified legal system, you may not really have a singular law like you have in Japan that will address issues emanating from deployment of artificial intelligence system. And if we also check, as time goes on, the jurisprudence is very fledgling and just coming up in Nigeria. So we are not really talking about issue of exclusive or concurrent or residual list because we are still grappling with understanding the AI system in itself. But again, I want to speak to the both issues or both systems. So when you talk about regulatory approach that is strict, so they are looking at the risk and saying how do we prevent the risk emanating from artificial intelligence. The principle-based approach is saying, oh, let's leave innovation and let's allow innovation and look at how we can deal with risk subsequently. Now, for those, okay, I don't know if we're having different sets. Last week, I spoke about the collision dilemma. So the dilemma is if we look at risk too much, we will strangle innovation. And so innovation will not thrive. And if we look at, if we allow innovation to just go and move on, there's a possibility that the law will not catch up with innovation. And so therefore there's going to be a gap. For example, when the big tech came, and I'm talking about this, or stuff like Amazon, stuff like Google, stuff like Facebook, the principle we had was self-regulation, regulatory principle. These people, let's leave them to regulate themselves. Let's allow them to thrive. But government has actually woken up to discover that now we have corporations that are stronger than the state. In fact, data that Facebook has now, government doesn't have it. And that's why it was possible for Facebook can be used to manipulate election, because they have billions of people's information, data that they have, that they control. And so they become a behemoth to the extent that it's now difficult for the law to actually regulate their operation in the actual sense of regulation. Now, you know what's going on in Nepal. Nepal government actually shut down social media, even though that may not be the primary issue, but that was, or that may not be the underground, or let me say the actual underbellies that you have in Nepal. But again, it triggered the whole thing, and we know what is going on. It shows that to now regulate social media, just for shutting down Twitter alone in Nigeria, we know what the government was actually, what they went through. Now imagine shutting down Facebook, Instagram, Twitter at the same time. Now you're going to be shutting down businesses and all that. And so what I'm saying is the law is actually in a dilemma. So we need to understand this while discussing regulation, that whether you want to do risk-based, the risk-based also need to bear in mind that innovation needs to continue. And if you want to do principle-based need to understand that innovation will come with ethical and regulatory issues. Talking about the issue of compliance, the example of the guy that killed himself in the US on the issue of being advised by JIIPCC. So these are issues we continue to discuss as long as we discuss the aspect of regulation of artificial intelligence and emerging technologies. But personally, for me, I think beyond the aspect of regulation, it is important to begin to see ethics as a major issue in regulation. Mr. Ogushakin, yes, spoke about the issue of the law need to catch up, the law need to be to be proactive. If I agree with her as in 100%. But most unfortunately, the law can never move ahead innovation. Historically, the law responds to innovation. But what the context we can look at is, and unfortunately we have, and I'm speaking in the context of Nigeria, we have legislatures that probably do not really understand the workings of this technology. For example, blockchain, all this blockchain and cryptocurrencies and all that, the CBN there was a time they criminalized it without even a law. They passed a circular and criminalizing an activity by circular, which is even against the constitution. And now they are trying to say, okay, let's give them some room and monitor, because they really do not even understand it. And so it's impossible for a legislature that does not understand the workings of technology to even provide for regulation of technology, let alone, or how much less talking about proactive regulation of technology. But what in advanced country, for example, in Canada, you have the Privacy Act that was passed, I think, in 1983. Now, in Nigeria, we are talking about our own privacy, I think, in 2024 or so. 1983 Privacy Act was passed. I know I reviewed the whole of this act and discovered that a lot of the principles in this act are still very hesitant, and they apply to what is still happening now, even when there was no Facebook. And in fact, in 1983, there was no Yahoo Mail. Yahoo Mail and all that, you're talking about issue of 2000, 1999 or so, if I still recall. So what we should be looking at, a broad principle-based legislation. Yes, that is proactive and broad enough to envisage the changes which is probably, I think we are still saying the same thing, to envisage the changes being introduced by technology. And these are issues we should look at, that while making laws, legislators must begin to foresee in terms of languages, in terms of diction that is explored, in terms of drafting and all that. Those aspects has to be paid attention to. Then let me speak to ethics, and I will leave, because really you've touched a lot of stuff today. Now, ethically, I personally feel that ethics in technology should go beyond a moral code, should be perceived more as a guidepost that is enforceable, and not just enforceable in post-mortem, but enforceable before, as at the stage of innovation. And I will explain what I mean. Now, ChatGPT has come very stupidly, though, to say, hey, our system was supposed to be safer. And when somebody begins to suggest suicide, it should have maybe directed the person to a psychiatrist or so, but it failed. That is an ethical failure, which means that this was not built, it was not contemplated as at the time of building this technology. Now, in a situation where you have technology reacting to ethical, as in ethical architecture, there's a problem. The ethical architecture is actually to be built into the innovation itself. And so you have, in another climb, you call it something like, when it comes to privacy, you call it privacy by design. So privacy by design will mean something like, for example, how do I make, okay, privacy by design will mean something like, okay, for example, we are on Zoom now. If this thing is being recorded or is about to be recorded, Zoom is to alert me and say, this meeting will be recorded, you still want to continue? Then I will click, oh, I want to continue. Or if I don't want to continue, I say no, and it takes me out of the meeting. So it's been designed in such a way that it recognizes the fact that my privacy needs to be protected. Now, if that has, I know this feature did not come with Zoom, they develop it over time. Now, but if after recording has started and Zoom is telling me, oh, it has been recorded, that's not privacy by design, that's privacy in post-mortem. And so in terms of looking at innovation, regulatory agencies should be looking at inculcating privacy right from the time of development. And this requires real regulation, not just talking about regulators that really do not even understand what artificial intelligence system or new technologies mean. So we can continue to have this conversation, and it's extremely quite enriching for us and extremely educative also. And one of the issues I wanted to talk about, I think Ms. Ogunshaki also covered the aspect of, there's a need for international collaboration. Now, recently, AU came up with a charter on artificial intelligence. I think I also wrote an article on this. You can check it up on my LinkedIn page. I wrote an article on artificial intelligence charter by AU. I think that was in May this year, if I'm not mistaken. We gathered in Addis Ababa, we made the charter. This is what we do on artificial intelligence. This is this and all that. African countries will collaborate. Of course, I did a critique of this charter, very innovative, very lofty intentions. But are we committed to this? And we are speaking to Africa. Are we committed? We've seen how EU is doing stuff and how they are promoting innovation and trying to regulate. But currently, what are we doing in Africa? We have come up with a charter, lofty idea, all manner of noise we have made. What is the commitment emanating from member countries to actually, what is the structure that we have in place? Currently, we do not have any law regulating artificial intelligence. I know you talk about hate speech and online, whatever. What we have done, what the law enforcement agencies have done so far, is to use this to actually hand people. That's not artificial intelligence regulation. We are talking about how to deploy system. Nobody, we are not really talking. I know in 2023, I was part of the committee appointed by the minister to draft the National Artificial Intelligence Policy. So we drafted a policy submitted the document, and I was expecting publication. Lo and behold, the new minister appointed by the current president came up and set up a committee on the same issue to drive the same national policy, and say they came up with a policy. Obviously, somebody needs, I don't want to go into details, for duplicating the work and not condemning what we did before, no finding fault with it. We know what it means in Nigeria. So we have a whole lot of things to deal with. But I will end with this, that I want to encourage all of you. You're doing well. This is a good, I wish I had this kind of opportunity when I was at your stage in school. So, or whatever in my early career. So continuing to study is a global world, and these subjects that we are discussing cut across colors, continents, and all legal system. So continue to build yourself. Hopefully one day we will build our capacity in legal and even in innovation and other issues, and see how we can actually strengthen our legal system and build a regulatory structure that enables innovation and at the same time protect the rights of people. So I want to encourage you that you should continue. And of course, I want to commend the organizer for the opportunity. Let's keep up the good work. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Mr. Felix, for very, very insightful, a very, very insightful take on the subjects of today. Our mentors, both our mentors that have made it to class today, have done a very good job in helping us run through, the topic for today. So please, before Mr. Felix goes for today, please, do we have any questions we would like to ask him? If there are questions, Ms. Buki is no longer on the call. She had to run. So if there are questions for Mr. Felix, please, we can go ahead and ask. And before we call it a day in class. So please, do we have questions? Please, do we have questions? Do we have questions for Mr. Felix? I encourage us to ask questions so that we can get a little bit more in terms of in terms of in terms of in terms of information, and in terms of just generally having more enlightenment as regards the subject matter. Do we have questions for Mr. Felix? All right, so in the absence of, okay, Mr. Ekene, please, you can go ahead and ask your question.
Good afternoon, Mr. Felix. My question is it's quite simple, really. I just would like your opinion on just, should I say, the general direction Nigeria is actually going towards at the moment. Do you see Nigeria as possibly, maybe in the next 5 years, growing past the limitations that it has right now regarding the AI policies that have not been formulated yet?
Sorry,
hello,
I was trying to unmute. I can't answer this question with any precision. But from what we are doing, what you can say is, how you can predict is what we are doing exactly is the well, are we making progress? Yes. But is it enough? I will say no. Because as we speak now, okay, Mrs. Ogushakin talks about some people are working on innovation and putting billions of dollars, not even naira. Countries are innovating, they are moving. Just earlier this year, Facebook launched another AI or whatever we respect. And I think I made a comment on this on my LinkedIn page also. So we have not even have a structure in place to deal with the current issue that we have, let alone the one that is coming. So if we continue the way we continue, the answer is no. But if we change, maybe we'll make certain progress. So as we talk now, okay, thank God our curriculum has been changed for secondary school students or so. But I've not run through, but from the commentary I've seen, I discovered that I don't think that anything relating to artificial intelligence, AI, and all that is being even recognized. And I don't even think the teachers in secondary school, most people even understand what is called artificial intelligence. So, and we have countries where people in primary school, secondary school are building up. So you know where we are going is too far. We have places our legislators do not even understand this thing. I work in a sector where you see, and we are talking about private sector for your information, private sector regulatory framework for artificial intelligence. There's also public sector. Now, the privacy law that we pass is with respect to private sector. There's a public sector privacy. But nobody is even talking about that at all. That is why a police will write a letter to a bank and say, give me information about this certain person, and the bank will release it. So, again, I don't want to sound like a prophet of doom or be so pessimistic. But the way we are moving, if we are very candid with ourselves, we are not moving close at all. It's like when you have a jet that is moving at a supersonic speed, and you are using a bicycle to pursue it. So you can imagine how fast, what it takes you to get there. But again, what I will advise is if you don't build yourself, you can't affect the system. You can't bring any change. What I want to advise everybody on this call is continue to develop yourself. You're actually on the right path. Develop yourself to the point where you can bring value to the system. So let's leave the system alone and focus on how we can add value. And this is why we are here this afternoon to have this conversation. Continue to have value. I could have a bit of value. That's why I was part of the committee that drafted the first national artificial intelligence policy. If I didn't try to put some value on myself, I would not be chosen. So, and that's when you can actually affect the system positively. So that's what I will need to say. And again, I will need to drop off this call now. So thank you once again. Thank you.
All right. Thank you very much, sir,
Okay.
for your answers that you gave. So Mr. Felix has to go. We still do have one more question. So what is going to happen is that we are going to mail out your questions to Mr. Felix. I will send your question as a mail. If we get a response from him, that response will be sent back to you. Will be sent back to you in your group, in the main group of the class. So that is what we are going to do. So before we call it a complete close in today's session, please can we kindly do well to turn on our videos so that we can take a picture for class? My speaker is having a little bit of issue on my other device, but my video is turned on my other device. So yeah, okay. Yeah, thank you everyone. We'll be doing that in very soon. All right, so we are done with that. We are done with the picture. Thank you so much for cooperating. All right, we've officially come to the end of week 2. We'll be heading into week 3 next week. We'll be heading into week 3 next week. All right, so we'll continue with this pace heading on to the end of the program. So classes will follow this nature and this pattern. We sincerely apologize that we're not able to have all our mentors in class, right? We we sincerely apologize that we could not have all our mentors in class today. We hope and we'll try and work on getting everyone that we are supposed to have as mentor on board so that we can have different voices and different mentors give different perspective to the subject matters we'll be discussing, right? So do well to make yourself available to session and to class And I'm sure the learning experience, just as it has been in the first week and in the second week, will still have more quality as we go ahead throughout the course of the program. So please do not forget to fill out your attendance, right? Your attendance, and do not forget to also share what you have learned in today's session. Thank you, everyone, and please enjoy the rest of your weekend, right? Good day or goodbye.